do you see the business environment in Latin America? How good or maybe bad are we at fostering innovation?
Well, Latin America has had some very good years because of its rich natural resources and the exports to China. As China slows down, there is a slowdown in the export opportunities for many Latin American countries. So the good thing about Peru is that you have a strong financial service industry, a strong telecommunications industry, you have an export of fish products and agricultural products, so you have ways to compensate. But longer term, I think that Peru is going to want to adapt many of the trends that are happening in other parts of the world to their local businesses. And that's why focus on engineering technology for students and why observing what's working in other parts of the world and having contact with people who are working in other parts of the world is so valuable.
What would be those trends that CEOs and business people in general in Peru or in the region would have to keep in mind for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
I think the important trend starts with a power shift, largely attributed to the incredible surge in new technologies, cloud, mobility, data analytics, Internet of Things with sensors, to shifting the power for every industry from the producers who have traditionally been in control. That power is shifting to customers. Customers have more knowledge about products. There's more transparency in terms of prices and quality, and there's more feedback coming from other customers. And customers can now follow on social media the opinions of other customers, and they pay more attention to the opinions of other customers than they do to the traditional incumbent companies. So that will have huge implications for every business in Latin America, certainly here in Peru. The second big thing is that product businesses are now being rethought in terms of transforming them into service businesses. So how do you do that? Well, instead of selling something to somebody, you can lease it to them. You can build a subscription to a service that uses the products, and people don't actually have to buy the products themselves. And so every business needs to rethink itself in terms of not only how does it take advantage of customer feedback, both negative and positive, but how does it begin to reconceptualize its business from selling products to selling services that give you access to the products without actually having to buy the products outright.
And at the same time, considering that we're not currently in an economic boom anymore, how do we face having unloyal customers in probably difficult times that come ahead?
Well, the way I would think about it is that everything needs to be seen in the business through the eyes of the customer. Traditionally, businesses put together a business plan every year that measures traditional metrics of balance sheet performance, of profit, loss, margins, sales growth. But the reality is that those businesses that also think of the metrics that are all customer metrics, like what is the cost of customer acquisition? What is the cost of reducing the turnover, the churn of a customer? How do you monetize customers? What is the lifetime value of the customer? So building a customer plan is actually more important than building a business plan, because a business plan is largely a budgeting process that looks back and says, okay, based on last year, how much better can I do the next year, and how do I share up the, take the resources that are available and parse them out to various parts of the organization. The customer plan thinks of it very differently. The customer plan says it's all about the customer experience. It's all about making customers happy, because if we don't make them happy, they'll leave. They're just not loyal anymore.
When it comes to wanting to maybe start using more technology or adapt to technology, and then you have companies that maybe might think we're not exactly at the right time now in Peru to adapt to these new waves of technology. And how do you feel about that? Are we at the time maybe in considering the infrastructure?
Well, I think it's certainly the time to be taking it seriously. Think of Kodak a few years ago. In 2007, when Apple introduced the iPhone, at that same moment, Kodak was doubling their investment in back-end processing of film, because they were concerned about the competition for the single-use point-and-shoot film camera, and Walmart was gaining market share on them. And at that exact moment, when they were doubling down on film, the old technology, Apple was introducing the iPhone. 3 years later, Kodak filed for bankruptcy. So these things happen very, very quickly, and so no one can expect to be immune from the incredible changes that are going on to transform industry after industry. So I would say, even if your industry is not experiencing the impact today, that could change very, very rapidly.
Without you noticing.
Well, you might not notice it first, but some companies have found themselves, even gasping for their life, even a few years later. So you have to take it seriously over the long term.